Hello everyone, my name is JD. I was once a professional boxer, but I decided to explore other options in life. I now have a successful company and am married. Although I was previously married to two other women, those marriages unfortunately didn't work out. Now, this is my third marriage. I've been through 3 different marriages and still can't quite understand what women really want. I'm going to share my experiences with my newly wedded wife. Sit back and enjoy the ride with me. There's a lot you can learn from my experiences. So, on this particular day, my wife Angela and I had just returned home from our honeymoon, with my gateman helping with her luggage. We were thrilled to have finally tied the knot. Just then, my sister Ime emerged from the kitchen to welcome us. Angela was surprised to see her and asked what she was doing in our house. I quickly explained that I had asked Ime to help clean so Angela wouldn't come back to a dirty house. To my surprise, Angela took offense, insinuating that I called her a dirty woman. Really, Angie? I didn't mean that. I just asked Ime to help, that's all. Ime was even more surprised by Angela's reaction. Angela then confronted her, saying that even though they were best friends, she was now married to me and didn't want any third party in her house without her consent.
I know you're my best friend, but I will not tolerate a third party coming into my home without my consent.
She walked away, leaving Ime and me speechless. What just happened? She called Ime, her best friend, a third party in our marriage? I guess something is wrong. Let me go find out, guys. Lest I forget, while Angela and I were courting, she never gave me any reason to doubt her humility, loyalty, and love for me. Even my sister vouched for her as a good wife for me, so I married her. Well, maybe this is just a mood swing. Shortly after, I heard her shouting my name angrily from her room. I rushed to her and she told me she couldn't find her earrings, the ones I got her as a pre-wedding gift. Really, Angie? Okay. Have you checked everywhere? Let me help you look. Then she accused my sister of stealing them, claiming that Ime came over with the ulterior motive of stealing her jewelry. Angie, are you calling my sister a thief? Before I knew it, she stormed downstairs and accused Ime of theft. I followed her immediately. Ime was confused and hurt by the accusation. I could literally feel the pain in her voice as she asked Angie why she would steal from her when she could simply ask. I'm so lost here. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. Angela quickly went upstairs to search Ime's room and bag where she found her earrings. This made me believe that my sister had stolen them. Really, Angie? I was just wondering. Then I asked her to come to our room since she had found her earrings and left. Back in our room, Angela began nagging, asking if I was going to take my sister's side. For Christ's sake, Angie, what are you doing? You obviously wore these earrings twice during our honeymoon. How did they get into Ime's bag? You framed her. Why, Angie? Immediately, Ime entered, probably having eavesdropped on our conversation. She realized that her best friend had framed her because she came into her matrimonial home without her consent.
Angie, why? I framed you, so what?
Angie didn't like that my sister came, so why didn't she just tell her instead of framing her? Ime was disappointed and left. I tried to stop her, but my wife held me back, saying I should let her go. This is so strange. I don't know what to say, guys. Later that night, Angie prepared a sumptuous meal, and we sat down to eat at the dining table. The atmosphere was clear and pleasant, so I decided to talk to her about what happened earlier. I wanted to understand why she acted that way. Suddenly, her mood changed. Before I knew it, she stood up, forcefully took my plate while I was still eating, and carried it to the kitchen. She said if I wanted to eat, I shouldn't talk about something else. She came back and said we could continue our conversation. Guys, please help me out. What did I do wrong here? Please drop your answers in the comment section. Later that night, I went to Angie in her room. I humbly and politely asked if I had wronged her because I didn't understand why we were fighting so soon after our honeymoon. I said if there was any problem, she should just let it out and I would fix it. You won't believe how my wife twisted my words, saying I was calling her a broken bottle that needed fixing. Wait, was that what I said? I noticed she wasn't willing to hear me out, so I stood up to leave to avoid creating a bigger scene. She called me a coward, saying I only knew how to run away. I just looked at her and walked away. Right now, I don't even recognize my wife. Was she swapped on our way back? Let me just watch her first. The following morning, I was still sleeping when my wife began touching me. I told her I wasn't in the mood, and then she began acting up, crying. Oh God, what have I gotten myself into now? This woman is very dramatic, so I had no choice but to comfort her and bring her closer, and then there was peace. Sometimes my wife can be so nice and peaceful. Like this particular day, I was ready for work, and she was setting the table for breakfast. I came downstairs and she kissed me, made me feel comfortable, and served my meal. Angie, I love this side of you and I want it to continue, but will it be possible? Dear Lord, I'm trusting you on this. We were all chatty and happy as we ate together before I left for work. When I arrived at my office, my very good friend Sam congratulated me. After 2 failed marriages, I had finally found someone I was happy and comfortable with. I was thrilled to share my joy, saying that marrying someone I love and who loves me back was the best thing that ever happened to me. Sam, feeling happy for me, advised that I make my marriage work this time, and I promised I would. Although my other 2 failed marriages weren't my fault, they had their own problems, and they left. Later that day, I got back home and overheard my wife Angie talking to my sister. She explained that what happened earlier was just a prank to see how I would react, and that she now saw I was a good husband.
Of course he did. He's my husband, and I'm so happy that he handled the situation exactly the way he did. I'm so proud to be his wife.
Wow, this is nice. I let them finish their conversation before entering. I acted surprised to see Ime comfortably seated in the living room. I asked what she was doing there after what happened yesterday. Ime told me that Angie had called her earlier and explained everything. She began congratulating me for passing the test. Just then, Angie came downstairs, rushed to welcome me with a hug and a kiss, and acted all friendly. She then took me upstairs so I could freshen up, eat, and rest, politely asking Ime to leave the house as she wouldn't be available to attend to her again. Later, I was settled in the living room watching a show on the big screen. I noticed my wife passing by, so I politely asked her to bring my phone when she came downstairs. She brought my phone, but just as I stretched out my hand to take it from her, she intentionally dropped it on the floor. Jesus Christ! Angie, what was that for? She told me I was so engrossed in watching TV that I needed my slave to get my phone, so she did, and then walked away without any remorse. I was dumbfounded. I picked up my phone and saw that it was cracked in the back. My God, what kind of woman is this, for crying out loud? One cool night, I was lying on my bed, but couldn't sleep. Angie was already asleep, so I woke her up to talk about her sudden change in behavior. I humbly asked if I had done anything wrong to make her act this way. She told me clearly that she wouldn't allow any man to abuse her. Guys, from what you've seen so far, I could never lay a hand on a woman, let alone my wife. I quickly held her hands and told her confidently that I love her and would never try to abuse her in any way. She calmed down and we hugged. The following day, I was trying to be a nice husband by making breakfast. Angie came out and asked what I was doing. I told her I was just making breakfast for us because I'm also a good cook and wanted to be romantic. Angie got angry, saying I implied she couldn't cook and that I would go tell my family and friends that my wife no longer cooks for me and that I've been doing it. Seriously, why does this woman create issues out of nothing? Was I wrong to want to prepare breakfast for my wife? What wrong have I done again, Angie? She bluntly told me to take my rubbish food out of her sight.
My friend, clear that place and get that nonsense out of my sight.
It is well. God, please help me. I'm just so overwhelmed. Later that day, I went to see my sister Ime and poured out my frustration, hoping she could talk to my wife. I told her I didn't understand the woman I married anymore. She's changing, or has even changed before my eyes, but Ime found it difficult to believe me. When I reminded her about the incident that happened after our honeymoon, she told me it was a prank. You're kidding, Ime. What prank? That was reality right there. That's exactly what I've been going through since. Frustrated, I begged her to talk to Angie, and she accepted. The next day, the person I asked to help talk to my wife got deceived by the same person. I wasn't home when Ime came around, and when I returned, I overheard them talking. My wife lied to Ime, saying I had picked up a knife during a slight argument to hurt her, and in her defense, she got cut. This made Ime believe I was an abusive husband. Ime stood up to leave, and I quickly came in. I was surprised to see Angie had already bandaged her hand. I asked what happened as she came to welcome me, but Ime had already believed her. She sighed and left without saying a word. Immediately, Angie showed her true colors again, telling me I hadn't seen anything yet, and threw the bandage at me.
This is just a tip of the iceberg.
Jeez, not again. I went to the room and quickly apologized. She made me promise not to tell anyone about what goes on in our marriage, and I accepted. Peace was restored as she hugged me, then went to prepare lunch. We ate happily and peacefully that day. That same night, as we were about to sleep, I tried making advances towards her. She refused and asked me to stop, but I persisted. The next thing I knew, she hit me with her elbow, leaving a little scar. Jesus Christ, Angie, what is this again? I quietly went back to bed. The next morning, I saw her staring at me. I stood up to prepare for work, but she stopped me, saying I had to call in sick. I didn't understand why. She replied, asking if I wanted people at the office to know my wife hit me. I told her I would wear shades or say it's conjunctivitis. Guys, this woman almost blinded me and now says I can't go to work? It's like you're joking, Angie. I told her I had an important meeting and walked away while she agreed to make me breakfast. At the dining table, I was enjoying the delicious meal of bread and tea she prepared. She kept looking and smiling at me until I tasted the tea. It tasted funny and was choking me. I asked what tea she served, and she said she ground peanuts and added them to my tea. Jesus Christ, Angie! Did you want to kill me? I am allergic to peanuts. I tried to reach my bag for my shots, but she rushed and hijacked it, claiming she told me to call in sick, and I refused. This woman is a witch, guys. I pleaded and pleaded for her to give me my shot, almost dying, but she refused, insisting I call in sick and then we go to the hospital, or I remain like this. Guys, I didn't want to die, so I forcefully accepted, falling to the ground before she finally gave me my shot. Later, as I lay relieved on the couch, she came out again, showing care that I couldn't tell if it was real and genuine or just fake. I got to the office the next day and my friend Sam was there. I poured out my frustration, telling him I was tired of my marriage and wanted out. He was shocked, saying, "Just 1 month into your marriage and you already want out?" Oh, Sam, it's been barely a month, but I feel like I've been in this toxic marriage for over a decade. Sam, I told you I married the best woman, but that was before our honeymoon. After that, everything changed. That woman is really crazy. Sam reminded me that this is my 3rd marriage and that I can't just end it like that. Well, I guess I'm just not lucky with marriage, Sam. My first wife was 23. She was still very young. What was I even thinking then? The second one, we both outgrew each other. And now this 3rd one, I don't understand anymore. Sam refuses to understand me. He believes I am the problem and warned me to make my marriage work. I couldn't say anything but just smiled. Guys, my wife is hell-bent on destroying my life. You can imagine, I was watching my show when she came and asked me to help her do the dishes. I didn't see anything wrong with that and just said, "Okay, baby," and continued with my show. Minutes later, she went to the kitchen and came back out, throwing water all over me. Angie, what is the meaning of this again? This woman started yelling and talking to me anyhow because I didn't wash the dishes as she instructed. Wait, guys, let me get this straight. Am I supposed to wash the dishes when my wife is at home? If I decide to do that, it should be my choice, not an instruction I should be following, right? I raised my voice at her because I was already pissed, not knowing she had quickly dialed Ime's number and acted like the victim while I was the oppressor. I didn't know what she was up to, so I kept raising my voice. Then she went to the door, began hitting it, crying, and pleading to make people think I was hitting my wife. Angie, what are you doing? Are you sure you are okay? Then she switched back to her real self and went upstairs. I'm sure my gate man was wondering what happened. Later that day, my sister came to me, accusing me of beating my wife. What? What are you saying, Ime? Listen, I don't know what Angie told you, but they are all lies. Angie is a psycho. But guys, it's so unfortunate that Ime believed my wife over me, saying if I don't stop, she will report me. Wow! So Angie is gradually creating a wedge between me and my sister. She got upset and walked away, blaming me for hitting my wife. I was just speechless and felt helpless. The following day, this whole thing was so overbearing that I had to report to Angie's mother, hoping she could talk to her. I told her everything, and she offered to speak to her daughter, so I thanked her and left.
Don't worry, my son. I'll talk to her, okay?
My mother-in-law did talk to her daughter. From what she told me about their conversation, I learned my wife was doing all of this because she had sworn never to allow any man to beat her like her father beat her mother before his demise, and how her sister stayed in an abusive marriage until she became crippled and confined to a wheelchair. Despite her mother's advice, Angie refused to listen, claiming her mother never lived by example. So why should she listen to her? This left her mother speechless. Later, I returned home and saw my wife in the living room with bruises on her face. Shocked, I asked her what happened. She stood up, went to the door, locked it, and began hitting herself with the door, shouting and screaming for me to stop hitting her. Guys, I was lost and didn't even know what was going on. Are you sure this woman didn't escape from a rehab center or something?
What's wrong with you?
My back, I'm sorry, please.
Our gate man was about to open the door to save her when she quickly opened it herself and ran out, crying and wailing that I was hitting her. I just shut my door and went back inside. This woman is so strange. I was set to leave the house, and she was sitting right on the couch, asking if I loved her little present. She said if I ever took our marital issues out again, I would see hell unapologetically. Frustrated and angry, I told her I didn't want to continue with this marriage. She stood up, threatening that if I ever tried that, she would destroy my life. Guys, to be honest, I felt the threat, especially when she told me that as a professional boxer, I couldn't lay hands on a woman, which I've never done, but she had evidence against me to prove otherwise. Angie, what have I ever done to you? She rough-handled her hair, did scar makeup, and took a selfie to show I did that to her. This is what she has been doing, making my family, especially my sister, believe I am beating her. I couldn't say anything and walked away like a defeated man. Guys, Angie would practically tie bandages on her hand and call my sister. Then she would start acting like she is a good person, claiming she loves me and wouldn't want people to know I hit her. I'm sure my sister is blinded by her sweet lies. I had just returned from work with my friend Sam, happily talking, when Aime angrily gave me a very hot slap, raising her voice at me. I don't understand, Aime. What is wrong with you? Just then, Angie approached us and came to warmly welcome me with a bandage on her hand. I asked what happened to her hand. Guys, Angie pulled this act just to make Aime and my friend Sam see me as a woman beater. Aime told me she also confirmed it with our gateman, who affirmed it. My God. What trouble am I in? No one wants to even hear me out. I tried to show them the bandage wasn't real, but I only complicated matters as they all pushed me away, shouting at me. I was so helpless and confused as I walked away, leaving them to believe whatever they wanted to. As if that wasn't enough, my mother-in-law came and began warning me never to lay hands on her daughter again. Otherwise, she would deal with me so harshly that I would curse the day I was born.
I will so deal with you. You will curse the day you were born.
Dear God, this has become so unbearable for me. Please help me. 2 months later, I tried to understand my wife, and it was going well as we hadn't had any fights for the last 2 months. One day I was on a call with a client when she came in and dragged the phone from me, saying it was late and I shouldn't be working. I wanted to refuse, but saw she wasn't giving up, so I listened, closed my iPad and my phone to attend to her. Then she said, this is who she wants her man to be. Wow. How do you mean, Angie? She told me she wants a man who will listen to her, love her, care about her opinion, and do everything she says.
Who cares about my opinion? Who doesn't argue? Who does everything that I say?
Smiling, I replied, so in other words, Angie, you want a man who has no family or friends, who has no opinion, and who is always at your beck and call, right? Guys, hear what she said. That it doesn't matter if my sister hasn't spoken to me for 2 weeks, I should ignore her and focus on her. Wow, I see. I hear you, Angie. I've heard you, really. One fateful day, I was surprised to receive a call from my ex-wife, Anita. She asked if I was available to meet and talk, and I told her I was. We sat at a bar when she told me she had met my sister earlier, who told her about my marital issues. She said Ime sounded so angry and disappointed at me for beating a woman, but she herself refused to believe it because of our experience. She knew I could never lay hands on a woman. I remembered how she, Anita, kept throwing herself at me, trying to provoke me to hit her like every other man does, but I didn't. She later asked why I didn't hit her even once after all she did to me. I told her I could never lay my hands on a woman, let alone my wife. I am a boxer, so I can only defend myself.
Why didn't you hit me?
First of all, I don't hit women. Plus, did you forget I'm a licensed boxer? I can only defend myself if I feel threatened.
The reason we divorced was because she had fallen in love with someone else and filed for divorce herself. Back to our present, she was the only one who believed I could never beat my wife. Guys, you don't know how relieving it was for me, how happy I was that someone finally listened to me. I told her I just wanted to sell all my properties, my house, car, and company, and run away. But she said I didn't have to do that. All I needed to do was find hard evidence to use against her. How? How do I even do that, Anita? Then she gave me the idea of getting a CCTV camera and putting it in a very hidden and strategic place, then triggering Angie so she would display all her madness. Geez, Anita, you are right! My God, why did I never think of this? I quickly thanked her for bringing my attention to this great idea. Then I asked about her husband. She told me she's still single. The relationship didn't work out. I apologized for that, and then we continued our drink. The following day, I bought the camera, had it set up perfectly, and began looking for the perfect place to put it. I tried many angles, but none were good until I tried the door side, tested it, and saw it was perfect. Oops, this is good and perfect. I quickly cleared the pack, hid it under the shelf, then sat down, waiting for my wife's return. Finally, she entered, and I started by angrily asking her where she was coming from. She replied, "Sweetie, I went to the post." Immediately, I cut her off, saying she shouldn't sweetie me. I was doing everything possible to trigger her. I raised my voice at her and even said some things to provoke her, but she didn't react. She responded humbly, even apologized for not making my food earlier before she left, and then went ahead to do so. Wait, guys. Is this woman a witch or something? Is she aware I have a camera in the house? Because I don't understand. I will still try again. Another day, I was patiently in the living room waiting for her to return. When she did, I told her I wanted a divorce, knowing this was what she would definitely respond to. Immediately, she turned and came over to me, forcefully taking my phone from me. Guys, it's working. Angie flared up, pushing my head, and said if I ever mentioned that again, she would destroy my life. After all, she has evidence and people to testify, especially my sister, and I would go to jail. Wow, Angie, you think you are smart. Well, not this time around. I told her she could gather all her evidence and send me to jail. After all, I've been living in a prison in my own house, so what's jail any different? I told her I didn't care anymore, and I would divorce her. She noticed I wasn't feeling threatened. Frustrated, she pushed me so hard that I hit my head on the wall and collapsed. Guys, I don't know what Angie must have been doing while I was unconscious, but I'm glad the camera was still on, capturing everything she did, who she called, and all that. Later, I regained consciousness, trying to feel my head again when she rushed out, showing fake concern. I asked what happened, and she told me I fainted. I fainted? That's not true, Angie. You pushed me. She then said I was threatening to leave her, which she knows gets her mad. Shortly after, there was a knock on the door, and she went to answer it. Fortunately, it was the police. I presume my sister had called them to come arrest me. They said someone called them because there was a fight between a man and a woman in this apartment. Angie quickly told them that it wasn't true, that we loved each other and couldn't fight. Love which self, Angie? I was looking and couldn't say anything. When the police asked again why the house was scattered, Angie lied to them that she was going into acting to play the role of a mad woman, and that I, her husband, was assisting her to rehearse. Guys, the police already believed her.
I'm going into acting, so they asked me to play the role of a mad woman.
One of them asked if I was okay. Angie quickly responded that I was. She asked me if I was okay. It was an opportunity for me to expose this evil woman, but would that be the right thing to do? No, I don't think so. So I responded that I was okay, leaving Angie with the police as she saw them off to the door. Still that night, Angie had called Ime over, making her believe and hate me more for being a woman beater. I came downstairs, seeing what she had turned my sister into. I demanded that she take off the bandage. She began her emotional blackmail, saying she lied to the police because of me, and now I want to hurt her?
I lied to the police earlier on because of you. Are you trying to hurt me?
I didn't listen to her and insisted she take off the bandage. Ime tried stopping her, but she did as I instructed. Guys, guess what? There was a real cut in her palm that I had stabbed her. I was shocked. Ime got enraged. I know this has settled every single doubt in her mind that I'm truly a woman beater. She began calling me a monster. I just looked at them and walked away. Finally, I have gathered all my evidence and I'm just so happy. I invited Angie's mom without Angie's knowledge, my friend Sam, and my sister Ime. I'm glad Angie was the one welcoming them in, even surprised to see them. I came downstairs and she rushed to me, asking what I was doing and holding my hands. I gently removed my hand. When I saw they were all settled in, I told them I called them here to inform them that I wanted to divorce my wife and that they could help her pack. They were shocked.
All I need you guys to do is help her pack, because I don't want to see her when I return.
Ime was consoling Angie, telling her not to cry or beg, believing I was doing her a favor. Sam tried to talk to me, but I just told them to check their phones and went outside. They all received my message. I forwarded the CCTV clip to their phones showing what happened that night. I'm sure they watched the video. Ime was so disappointed, realizing I had been the victim all along. The video revealed that Angie had pushed me, cut herself, and called Ime, screaming and shouting as if I was hurting her. Everyone was so disappointed in her. When asked why she did that, she claimed she didn't want her marriage to be like her mother's and her elder sister's, so she decided to be the oppressor instead. She also said she did it because she loved me. I was waiting patiently outside for them to finish their discussion when Ime came to me and began apologizing for the wrong she did, the names she called me, and for not believing I would never hit a woman. Honestly, I am not angry. I'm just happy and fulfilled that I am free now. Sam came and also apologized. I forgave them because it wasn't their fault. I forgave Angie, but I'm sorry she still had to leave my house. I didn't want the marriage anymore. I wished her the very best as her mother took her away from my house. She claimed she didn't want her marriage to be like her mother's, yet she became the oppressor herself. The question is, does that actually change anything? Didn't she still lose her marriage in the end? What seems right to us isn't always right. It can just be a bait leading us into destruction. That evening, I was so happy and invited Anita out for dinner to show how thankful I was. She was the only woman who knew me and helped me come out of what was making me lose my sanity. She was delighted and said she regretted making a hasty decision to leave me, asking if there was a chance we could get back together now that I was a free man. I smiled and said, "Anita, you see this man right here is broken. I just want to be left alone. I don't want to be a burden to anyone. I just believe marriage isn't for everyone." I saw the disappointment on her face, and she asked if we could still remain friends. Anita, I would like if we just leave things the way they are. You are a nice person, but let's keep things as they are, I said. I went ahead and continued my meal, and she followed, looking disappointed. I understand, guys. Love is a beautiful thing, but not marriage. I have married 3 different women, and it never worked out. I guess I just have to accept my fate, that marriage isn't for everyone. What did you learn from my story? Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe to Creatority Films for more interesting and latest Nigerian movie updates. See you next time.